What's good, everybody? I'm BPC and welcome to Competitive Origins MMA. Well, Max blessed Holloway faced off against Calvin Kattar this past Saturday night. Or I should say actually Saturday night over there, Saturday afternoon, over here, stateside. And wow, it took place at UFC Fight Island. It was at the new Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, and it was the first of 3 events that the UFC was going to put on with fans in attendance. Now, this 18,000 seat arena actually had 2,000 fans inside to watch the action. Now, this was also the UFC's return to broadcast television, which they haven't been on since their Fox deal, and combat sports return to ABC. So it was a great night of firsts, a great night of returns. It was great all together. Now, as far as the number 6 ranked Calvin Kattar, basically he had a great 2020. He scored a TKO victory over Jeremy Stephens, and he followed it up by a 5-round decision victory over Dan Ige. Now, Max blessed Holloway, on the other hand, was actually coming on a 2-fight losing streak. Now you're thinking, well, how is he the number 1 ranked 145er if he has 2 straight losses? Well, one of those losses came against Alexander Volkanovski, in which he lost his 145 championship belt. So they had to run it back. And in that fight, it was a split decision victory in favor of Alexander Volkanovski once again. Now, obviously, Max was disappointed. The fans were disappointed. I, to this day, have yet to meet an individual that feels Alexander Volkanovski won that fight. But I'm sure there is somebody out there, maybe someone named Alexander Volkanovski. Now, what was really interesting about that was that, or I should say the fight, was that Max actually did not train, or I should say did not spar leading up to that fight with Alexander Volkanovski. He had to rely on, doing Zoom calls with his coaches since all the facilities were closed down in Hawaii due to COVID. He trained out of his house and he looked absolutely amazing in that fight. Like I said, that's a fight that I totally believe he won. Well, it turns out that Max liked it not having to spar with individuals, and he did the exact same thing leading up to the Calvin Kattar fight. So, the fight, he didn't train, he didn't take any blows to the face, and that's just basically where it was at. Well, Calvin Kattar, was being picked as the individual that was possibly going to win this fight. There was a narrative out there that he was the better boxer between the 2 individuals, which I thought was kind of crazy because Max gets down with his hands in the octagon, and Max actually thought this was going to be a boxing fight due to the narrative being put out there. Well, he got kicked by Calvin and he was like, oh shoot, I guess this is an MMA fight. This isn't going to be boxing, and that's when Max kind of went off. We saw, such diversity in his striking ability, a striking diversity ability that I have not seen by any other fighter in recent times. He was throwing punches to the head, punches to the body. He was throwing calf kicks, thigh kicks. He was doing spinning kicks where he's hitting him in the midsection, and he was also kicking him in his head. And the sheer volume he was able to just put out, it was almost like a video game. And the speed on top of the volume and on top of the diversity, it was like you were just button mashing and hitting the codes, and it was like 10-hit combo, this combo, that combo. That's almost what it was like. It was basically like watching Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. That's how crazy this fight was. Now, Calvin Kattar is no chump by any means. He was the more powerful fighter. It appeared in the fight, and leading up to, that's what people expected him to be. And he did throw a lot of blows, and you did see Max's face start to turn red. Some were saying it was because he hadn't sparred. He didn't tenderize his face leading up to the fight. Whatever, it's not necessary, But the powerful shots were hitting Max, and it was like, oh shoot, like he's catching him. Like, could he put Max out? Now, leading up to the fight, I found out that Max has never been dropped in a fight, which I think is a pretty interesting feat. to be in as many battles as Max has had and to strike with these individuals back and forth and to never be knocked down, maybe that's false, but I read it and it said it was true, so I have to go along with it. Now, what I did notice is that when Calvin, led with his striking, he had more success, when he let Max, I can't even speak right now. When he let Max engage, first, it didn't work out too well for him. Now, Calvin, at some points of the fight actually looked finished because of the barrage that Max was able to put on him and the pace that he was able to keep doing. It was like, like in a video game when, your health is really low or whatever, and as far as like Max's stamina should have depleted, it's like he just picked up a little stamina, pill and he was just like, go, 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 go. It was like there was never a pause moment. He never took a breather or a break. It was just consistent and consistent. It was almost like he was the Terminator. He was a machine. He was determined to go ahead and terminate Calvin. He just kept firing off on him. And Calvin, actually he looked finished at some points and he looked so tired that, he couldn't even throw punches. He was actually, pulling a ludicrous and throwing them bows and stuff. And he looked like a T-Rex at one point, It was just no punches, just all elbows, because he couldn't lift his arms. But, he had to show that he was still trying to stay in this fight. Now, there's a lot of fighters that when they're getting a barrage of blows taken at them and there's just no way they're going to win the fight, then they just stop fighting, they just cover up, and then the referee saves them and he can fight on another day. There is no quit in Calvin. He was determined to finish out this fight, and he, like I said, he threw the elbows, he threw the punches, he just wouldn't quit. And this is when I became a fan of his. I thought he was chill. I thought he was cool. I actually wanted Jeremy Stephens to knock him out. But, it is what it is, But now I'm actually a fan of his because he doesn't quit. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of his fights down the road now because I know this guy is serious business and he's going to do what it necessarily needs to do to get through the fight, to try to win. And he just, like I said, has so much heart. Like I said, he did, throw out some more power shots once he recuperated. He threw out a lot of shots at Max, but it just seemed like Max took his best punches and you could see him get hit, but it's like Max's skull is made out of metal or something like that. Like it just, he gets hit, but it doesn't do anything to him. Like I said, he's the Terminator. He just kept coming and coming and coming. He took basically his best shots and there was just basically nothing Calvin could do in this fight. Now, it got to the point where Max was in the zone. And when I say in the zone, I mean in the zone, okay? He was actually talking to the commentators while, punching Calvin in the face. How do you do that? How do you engage with people on the side over here and then still punch your target without looking at him in the face and then move? Bob weave, move, and then punch him in the face again while not even looking at him. And then he got to the point where he screamed out, I am the best boxer in MMA. Not the UFC, in MMA. And when you saw his performance, you were kind of like, oh yeah, it was crazy the amount of striking ability that he displayed all throughout the fight. Like I said, there was that narrative that Calvin was going to be the better boxer, but it turns out that that was not the case. Max was the superior boxer, and he showed it throughout the entire fight. And in an interview after the fight, in the press conference, he actually stated that, he wanted, that if he wasn't boxing, if he wasn't in MMA, he wanted to show that he could actually be a professional boxer. But obviously he loves MMA, so he's going to stick with that. Now, after the fight, it went to the scorecard, Calvin was able to make it through the, entire 5 rounds, but the judges did see it for what it was. They knew it was not a close fight by any means. And 2 judges actually scored it 50-43 in favor of Max Holloway, which means they scored 2 10-8 rounds. And the 3rd judge actually scored it 50-42. So there's 50-43s and then there's 50-42. And that means 3 10-8 rounds. And I believe that has only happened 1 time in UFC history. So that is definitely a great accomplishment. What was even greater, though, is the significant strikes, the blows that really did the damage. And Max had 445 significant strikes in the entire fight, which actually set the record for an individual. It was amazing. And he beat his own record, which he set against Brian Ortega. So 445 is the record for individual. What's even more amazing is that 445 is more than an actual fight for two fighters combined. So if you take two individuals, combine their most significant strikes or whatever, it still doesn't equal what Max Holloway was able to do. So he actually, outstruck, actual fight, which is holy crap. Like, when you think about that, like, that doesn't even make sense. How is that possible? One person can beat two individuals, when you think about the significant strikes. It's flat out amazing what he was able to accomplish. Now, in the post interview, Calvin Kattar, Kattar was basically talked to, and he gave his opinion, and he said, you know what? If you're not a Max Holloway fan, you're a hater. And that was music to my ears. Like, this guy got his face utilized as a punching bag, and he still showed much respect to Max Blessed Holloway. Now, Max got on the microphone and, they asked him some questions. He did a little bit of talking, and he seized the opportunity. And this is what I've been talking about, over the course of a lot of my videos. A lot of MMA fighters don't do this, but I must show praise to when fighters do this, okay? And he basically said that he's staying on Fight Island. That's right. He's not flying back home. He said he will stay on Fight Island. And if somebody were to pull out of the main event between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier at UFC 257, Dana has his number to give him a call. Now, that sent chills down my spine. You know what I mean? After seeing the performance that Max just put on, I need to see Max on a weekly basis, okay? This was not just Max Holloway, this was Super Max, okay? This was, HBO Max. This was Max. This was Max to the max. And I want to see him back in the Octagon as soon as possible. I don't want to have to wait 4 months. I want to see him in a week. Now, I know there are some people that are thinking, well, he just had a 5-round battle. How is he going to turn around in a week and step up and take on, Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier, whoever falls out? And you have to remember, like I said earlier, Max did not do any sparring. A lot of fighters are going to spar a lot of rounds leading up to their fight. These past 5 rounds were Max's sparring rounds, okay? This got him warmed up and he's ready to go. He looked absolutely amazing, and that's why I think a fight between him and Conor McGregor would be freaking awesome. Now, of course, Dustin Poirier would also be a good fight, but we did see them do that recently with Dustin Poirier, edging him and getting the victory. But that Max did not look like this Max, and this Max was freaking awesome. So that's where we're at right there. I really hope, Max, I don't wish bad on anybody, but I wouldn't be sad if Max filled in for Dustin Poirier. But like I said, the Dustin Poirier fight and Conor McGregor fight is also going to be awesome as well. Dana White was actually asked about, the potential trilogy fight between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Blessed Holloway. And before he answered that question, he asked the audience, the people interviewing him, have you guys even subscribed to Competitive Origins MMA yet? And, he said, if you haven't, you got to hit the subscribe button and you got to click the notification bell so you can be notified as soon as these videos go live. And don't forget to ground and pound the like button. So I thought that was really nice of Dana White to give a shout out. But in regards to the question, does he see the trilogy, happening? And he says he basically can't see why it wouldn't. What Max is able to do, Max didn't lose that fight. The judges said he did, but he didn't lose that fight. And seeing what Max has done, afterwards, it just shows that Max, to me, is the true champion, and we have to have these guys run it back for a third time. And that's basically what Dana White's thinking. They got to run it back. Now, regards to the internet, I was looking around a little bit, and I actually came across Diego Sanchez. And he basically said that, Calvin will probably never be the same fighter after this fight. That, when a fighter gets beaten up like that, he basically has his soul taken from him. And Diego's saying he's speaking from experience. He says he's had it happen to him on numerous occasions where he's had his soul ripped from underneath him, ripped out of his body, or he referred to the terms his soul was raped from him, and basically, he just won't, be the same. His body will change, his body will go into more defensive. Nothing just is the same again. And you've seen some brawls where these fighters get into it and these fighters are never the same ever again either. So there is some truth to what he's talking about. I hope this is one of the cases where it is not true in regards to Calvin, because like I said, I'm a big fan of his now. I want to see him go on to do bigger and better things after this fight. Go to competitiveorigins.com, type in promo code MMA55 so you can get 10% off this Competitive Origins Just an Obstacle t-shirt. I'd also like you to go into the comment section below and let me know, what do you think about Max Holloway's performance? I want to know what you think, about the trilogy bout between, Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. And I also want to know what you think about Diego Sanchez's comments that, he might never be the same fighter after this experience. Maybe he'll come out and be a better fighter, but let me know what you think about it. It's not looking too good. It's not looking too good, but you never know. All right, guys? Thank you for tuning in today, guys. I'm BPC, and remember, you've been competing since conception. Whether you're competing against yourself or others, Competitive Origins.